Okay, we are live. This is Jennifer Collins. This is week 5 of Module 4 of the University of Dayton TEFL project.
Hi, this
Certificate.
is Carolina Carrillo. Oh, thank you. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay, Jennifer. So, would you like to start today? I mean, with the
Yes, I
questions you
would love
have?
to start today. So for question 1, it says, what current trends in teaching L2 writing do you consider the most important for your FL teaching context? Explain why. All right. So the current trend that I thought was probably the most relevant for me was integrated teaching of
Mhm.
writing, because I tend to teach adults. So since I'm not teaching children, it does seem to make sense that that would be the one that would work for me. Um, so it says here, like, for example, the importance of this is to promote learners' noticing of how particular grammar and lexis are employed in authentic written text and discourse. Um, so I do think that's really important. However, okay, one of the things that they talked about in this section that I found sort of interesting and maybe confusing a little bit, or I'd really love to hear what you think about this. Um,
Mhm.
so they say that it's really hard for L2 students to write like native speakers, or native writers, I guess. I don't know what you would call that. It's really hard for that sort of
Mhm.
step to be taken. And I kind of wonder if it's necessary to make people like, the Hemingways or the Charles Dickens or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, those, if it's necessary to take people to that level of writing, um, and if it's maybe more important to teach people to be really good business users of business English,
Mhm.
so like writers in business English or something like that, or maybe perhaps they're studying, like particular to like their context. So like maybe they're studying in an English speaking university. So yeah, it would be really important to make sure that somebody was a competent writer, when it comes to like writing a paper or something like that.
Mhm.
But I kind of wonder if it's necessary. I mean, we already are saying in this class, like, it's not really appropriate to ask somebody to have no accent when they speak if it's a second
Mhm.
language. I, of course, have an accent in Spanish, and that will always be the case. There's no way that I would lose my accent in Spanish. I don't think. I'd have to do a lot of work for that, and it wouldn't be necessarily important for me to be understood in Spanish. So it's the same
Mhm.
way I think in English. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you know
Well,
what I'm
yeah, you
saying?
remind me. You remind me of some of the ideas we had, like for, I don't know, like for speaking. Remember that?
Yeah,
That students were not supposed to follow like exactly, well, the models they're given. Like,
yeah,
yeah, they can reach certain levels, but it's very difficult for them to, yeah, to speak native like.
right.
Um, yeah,
And
I agree with you. Unless it's
is it
really
necessary?
necessary to master, let's say, one skill, it would be okay if you have like a high level of proficiency. But you're
Sure,
right. Yeah,
exactly.
if you're not becoming a writer, it's not necessary to, yeah, even if you do your best, I think it's very difficult to reach such a high level.
Right. And the other thing is that even native speakers don't always reach a super high level of writing.
That's
They're
right.
just
Yeah.
able to communicate, right? And
Yeah.
that's
You
the most
realize,
important.
yeah, people talk like in a bad way, or well, they don't even follow certain social rules when they're speaking.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah. We may have
Yeah.
like a model in our minds, like, yeah, pretending native speakers are like perfect, but they're not.
Oh, no, definitely not. No.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky following these models. It's not maybe like the best option. But I agree
Right.
with you. Yeah, this trend would be like the most suitable for our contexts. Taking into account reading can be taken like a model, let's say, in a good way as a yeah as a basis, let's say, to work on writing. It is okay
Hmm.
thinking about this integrated model. But I think it's also important to think about the variables of language context. That's really
Mm.
important. I mean, like to teach
Mm.
exceptions whenever you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that's important as well.
Yes. Okay. So let's
Number
read
two.
number two. Okay. Which approach of teaching, no, sorry, to teaching writing have you used or do you use in your FL class? Did you find it effective? How do you think your students may benefit from the other approach?
So this was about the two different approaches. One is where you kind of teach a process based, and then the
Hmm.
other was a project.
Product,
Was it project? Product
product
oriented.
oriented.
Yeah, that's right. So the process based was sort of more like you teach them how to pre-write and all sorts of sort of activities around writing, teach them about editing and that sort of thing. And then the product oriented is more kind of directed at actually producing a written structure,
Hmm.
or maybe even mimicking different written structures. Is that right? What you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, they're basically, sorry, there's like some, yeah, noise here. Okay, yes, I think you can use either, well, one, let's say, model or, yeah, approach, or the other one, but it depends on the skills you want to assess, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if it's something you're supposed to learn by heart, I don't think you can see any process in there.
Right.
Let's say
Yeah.
like follow when you have to learn, let's say, some past participles or things like that. I don't think you can see
Yeah.
a clear process. But if it's about production, then you could like yeah, work on the process oriented classroom
I also
procedures
felt
maybe.
I also felt a little bit like it had to do with your goal for the student. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're dealing with adult students, I think we've talked about this before. I think it's really important that you don't make an adult student feel incompetent just because they don't have like a full command of the language, right? So I think that's really important.
Right.
So sometimes if you teach them like a process-based approach, which is super useful for students like who are maybe in high
Mhm.
school or still trying to organize their ideas, it can feel a little bit patronizing, you know? So I think it kind of depends on your outlook, your sort of audience as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Because
your audience, your goals, yeah, your content. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
everything counts here. That's right.
yeah, because I've taught both of them as well, and it just depended on the situation. So sometimes with adults, sometimes it is really important to teach a process-based approach to students who may not fully know, like, because structure is also cultural, I think, a little bit,
Hmm.
especially as you get to like more advanced classes. So I do think that structure is really important. So for instance, like in Spanish, one of the things that I notice um, is that there's like kind of a lot that happens in, for instance, in an email. There's a lot that happens in
Hmm.
the beginning of an email that's really important,
Hmm.
like culturally. And I don't
Yeah.
think in English it's as important. But there is some stuff that happens at the end of the email in English that's really important.
Hmm.
So, it's like it is a little bit
Yes.
cultural as well. So process based can help with that. I don't know, from my perspective.
Right. Yeah, I find it very interesting when where the reading sorry, where the reading says that these, let's say, approaches are complementary. So you
Yeah,
can work
yeah,
both of them. That's really interesting. That way
yeah.
you can like balance your class. That's
Right.
really interesting.
Yeah. And I do think it's helpful, especially for certain kinds of students, to give them the opportunity to organize their thoughts or the space to organize their thoughts before they write. So,
Yeah, before
yeah, I think it can
feeling
be
like
helpful.
exposed or yeah, like on the spot. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
exactly.
Okay, so number three is about how can thinking about your own FL writing process be helpful in teaching writing to your students? What
Hmm.
was useful when you
For
were
me.
learning, yeah, for you, like writing in Spanish, what was useful?
I have a few situations that were really useful. Most of it was not in a classroom. So I once had a friend read through an email that I had prepared, and
Mm,
like he rewrote the email basically in I mean, it was in Spanish, but he rewrote it to make sense
mm.
and to be nicer
But
and
did
to
you
kind of
feel good
include
or
some of
it
the.
was like shocking?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
it was
was it
great.
good?
Oh, it was a
Yeah.
good. I mean, my Spanish. I've never like thought like, oh my God, I have the best Spanish ever. Like, I think it's okay, it's passable, but it's not like the best. So I was super happy when he did that because it really taught me. I actually saved the email and used it to write other emails later on because so much of that kind of writing is a formula.
Hmm.
You just kind of plug in some of the like you
Yeah.
just sort of change some of the words or something. So that
Yeah,
was
these
really
are
useful.
formulas.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I
I
found that
like,
first really
yeah,
helpful.
I'm a fan of feedback too. When I was at the university, well, I had one, well, yeah, I was taking one subject that was called academic writing. So, of course, it
Oh
was
yeah.
very demanding because there you had to write essays, like different about the different topics, different kinds of essays and, well, articles and things like those. And what was great was that the feedback the teachers provided had like some conventions. So you were told
Mm,
what your mistakes were. That
yeah.
was great because I knew if it was about grammar, vocabulary, spelling, whatever. So it was like very accurate.
Oh.
I really like this
Oh,
type of
cool.
feedback. But yeah, but this is because we were supposed like to write good because we were
Yeah.
being like prepared to become teachers. So yeah, that's the point, and it
Yeah.
relates to what you were just mentioning about like getting a certain level. Yeah, that's well,
How
that
did
was
they
great for me.
flag things as grammatical errors or I don't know,
Yeah,
collocation? I don't know what else. What other kinds of errors maybe you could have run into? How did they do
word
that?
order, word order.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This is
okay.
like very
Okay, so they did.
common. Or
Okay.
let's say it could be something about content too. Maybe there were like some awkward things. So
Okay.
yeah, it was
Oh,
about,
really?
let's say, yeah, content. It was like editing, like being prepared and
Wow.
it was very, very demanding, but it was great.
That's so interesting because in journalism as well, there's like often like the awkward error, and
Hmm.
it doesn't really. It is an error, but initially you don't think of it as a problem, and then you realize like, oh, that is the difference between a good like a good, well-constructed paragraph and a
Hmm.
paragraph that's confusing. Yeah, totally. And sometimes it's like you don't even know why it's a problem. But yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
interesting.
that's a problem. And yeah, it was like really, I don't know if Fanny could describe this situation, because when you were giving back your writings, your papers, your texts,
Uh-huh.
you had like everything was like marked. It was horrible, like you felt really
Yeah.
bad. But then yeah, when you started reading things, you realized what your mistakes
Yeah.
were, and yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was a good way of
Um,
of learning writing.
One of the other things that I have to say that I've learned a little bit from that is surprising. I was in a class where we basically just wrote short essays in Spanish, very short essays in Spanish, and then turned them into the teacher, and then she would circle the error, and then we as a class would have to identify the error.
Find that, yeah.
And it was horrifying because I was really bad at identifying the errors, like really, really, really bad. I really didn't understand. Probably now I would be a little better, but like even like I was really bad then. And so often my classmates we would do it, she would do it in the class. And there weren't very many students, like 4 people in the class. It was very small. So often my classmates would be the ones who would identify the errors, which was super helpful because they often knew how to explain it, you know, also very embarrassing, but helpful. Once I got over the embarrassing part, it was very helpful.
Things are helpful. We were asked to to write some outlines before actually writing. So it was even more demanding because you had to write, let's say, your topic sentences, supporting details, everything. So it was a really tough exercise.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good, though, because at least the teacher knows usually before you've written anything, before you've written the paper, that like the critical elements of your paper are going to be clear.
And about content, like arguments, everything was really organized.
That's like I guess that would be process-based or something? Would that be?
Yeah, it was kind of process-based, But it could take a long time, like to write, let's say, a 4 or 5 paragraph essay. Of course, when you are at an intermediate level, it's really hard for you, like to do something like very,
I know.
authentic, like high level.
Yeah, I know. I still have to like kind of pause before I write an email in Spanish and be like, okay, I'm gonna switch into
whenever you want me to check anything, I can do it. I love like reading things, and my friends ask me to check things, editing. I love it. So
and you're
for free.
You're a consultant, right?
Yeah.
You should be an editor. Why don't you become an editor?
Well, I worked as an editor before. I have to tell you.
Okay. Yeah. No wonder. Okay.
I have to tell you. Yeah, I work for the competence. Do you know Greenwich? Greenwich.
The competition.
Like Norma. Yeah, the competition. Yeah. So I was your competition some years ago.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool.
Okay, so we're missing how many questions? Like 2 or 1?
4. I think we have 4 and 5. Question 4 and 5.
From 5.
Right?
Great.
Based on what you've read about teaching FL writing, how have your conceptions of teaching writing skills changed? Identify 2 or 3 ideas, concepts, approaches, techniques, strategies, etc. from the reading that may influence your approach to or principles for teaching writing skills. So this is kind of like the maxims, I think. But a different version of them.
Or what are like the most important ideas? Like the ones that may change your mind, maybe.
Yeah. One of my takeaways from the process-based approach is that you should consider all of the activities surrounding writing as writing as well. So pre-writing and editing and that sort of thing. So I kind of I actually really liked that idea. I liked that they talked about treating the first and second draft differently. Like I liked the way they outlined that. I thought that was interesting. And then, and then consider both like the big picture approach to writing an essay and also the details. I think are important as well. And maybe like consider many different types of writing. I think that's also really
Yeah,
important when you're teaching
it's really
to
important.
to yeah, teach people how to write letters and cards and emails and essays and all sorts of different kinds of things.
Yeah, both formal and
Okay.
informal texts, right? Yeah, it's important.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I think that providing a balanced writing instruction focused on process and product is really important. Um, Meaningful writing is really important too. So it is
Yeah.
essential for our students like to get clear instructions. So especially when they are like
Hmm.
beginners, they need lots of instruction. Like yeah, the teacher is supposed like to give them a really precise context. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and it's really important to have design or to design writing tasks that are creative, imaginative, interactive, and real. So that way our students
Mm.
can regard writing as something, like something interesting and not as something boring. Because
Yeah.
if you don't work on it, it's going to be very difficult like to get your students' attention or interest throughout the
Hmm.
course. Yeah, that's great to have like different types of texts and to work on informal texts too. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's important. And nowadays it's like
Hmm.
the term netiquette is a
Mm,
trend. Have
yeah,
you
that's
heard of it?
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think that's really, I also learned a lot about writing by like messaging with friends, you
Mhm.
know,
Yes.
like in Spanish, right? So, yeah, I think that is really useful.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's really
Yeah,
useful.
that's a really good point. That would be a fun class actually to talk about etiquette. Huh, I think that would be
Yeah,
fun
why not?
because it is different.
Or
It is a little different.
yeah, and it sorts of prepares yeah, it prepares the students for real life
Yeah,
communication. So maybe when they're like in a business context, it's going to be really useful.
yeah. I had a young student who was writing an email for an exam, and I was scoring her exam, and I read through her exam, and the email was excellent, except that she was probably, I don't know, maybe in her very early 20s, maybe. She was like graduating from college. And the email said like, "Hi, Mr. Jones!" exclamation point. And I was like, oh, like the thing that's like probably gonna throw the reader off the most would be the exclamation point. Not everything else in her email was fine. Like I don't remember anything weird, like or even maybe any errors. But it was the format that was a problem. Like, oh wow, I've never thought about teaching students about punctuation in emails,
Yeah,
but it's really important, you know?
yeah. I think nowadays we're like very flexible with punctuation. I mean, I'm talking about Spanish.
Yeah.
We don't write like
Yeah.
in Spanish we have like two, let's say, exclamation, interrogation, right? Like
Right.
question marks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in English it's only one. So nowadays we write with only one sign in
Yep.
Spanish. So
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
very relaxed. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
informal, really informal, and that's
Uh-huh.
not correct.
Yeah.
So it's important
Right.
to go
And if
over these
I were,
topics.
yeah, no, and if I were to write an email, like a semi-formal email, it would be sort of it would be seen as inappropriate if I forgot about the other exclamation, well, maybe not
Yeah,
exclamation point, but question mark or something, you know.
yeah,
It would be weird.
yeah,
Yeah, it would be the same way as like if somebody weren't capitalizing right, or something, it would be seen as weird. And I do think that's really important because when it comes to like business English, it is about an appearance to a certain extent,
yeah.
you know.
You have to show, yeah, like very high level yeah, you have to show that you master something. So yeah, that's the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And have you heard about ePals? Those virtual
Um,
friends? Well, this is
like
like a trend too. Well, actually,
like pen pals?
I got to know. Yeah, it's like a pen pal, but nowadays you don't send letters, but you send emails. So it's
Oh,
great.
cool.
Yeah, it's a good way
Is it
of yeah of practicing writing and even
yeah,
other skills, right? You can arrange things like this thing we're doing right now, like the Hangouts or Skype or I don't know
really?
WhatsApp. It's great. Yeah.
And is it online? Can you like look up epals.com or something?
Yes, but I think there are like some agreements between schools.
Okay.
So
Oh,
maybe
okay.
they,
Okay.
yeah, it's like a safe environment. So
Okay.
they
Good.
know who they are talking to because they're
That's a
like,
really good idea though.
yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
cool. We're about to end our classes, the classes that we're giving at work,
Mhm.
and so I was thinking about different things that I could give to the students as things
Maybe you
that they
can give
could
them,
use.
yeah, some ideas. That would be great.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, 5. Uh, oh, wait a second.
I think we have four, right? Or five?
Ah, yeah,
Let me
there
check it.
are only 4. Oh, yeah.
Only four. Yeah, so we're
Ah,
done.
right. Okay. Yeah. Ah, yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you. See
And I'll
you
be
next
seeing
week. Well,
you.
I don't think we have any more Hangouts this module, right?
I don't think so. I don't think
I
so
don't think
either. I
so.
don't even know if we have more hangouts at all. But
Yeah.
we will definitely see each other in August, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
have to start, yeah, setting things, getting things ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
To go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
I'll see you later. Okay, I'm gonna
see
stop the
you.
broadcast.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.